Before we begin looking at colonial North America and starting our study, let's go back to where it really begins with the Renaissance. This period starts in Italy around the 1300s. It's named because it was a rediscovery of the ancient writings and art, which brought a rebirth of culture to Europe. It started primarily in the cities of Venice and Florence, who were eliminating their feudal systems and replacing them with republics. Republics of this type needed bureaucrats to run the government, and those bureaucrats needed education. Education was not something that most people had at the time, so they had to look for the places to educate these upcoming men. Most of the knowledge was still being held in the Islamic world, and as the Crusades had continued, a lot of that knowledge was being brought back. Classical forms of art, architecture, and text from Greece and Rome were being reintroduced to European society. Sculptors really begin to take off on these copies of the ancients. Da Vinci, Donatello, Michelangelo began to create artwork. But they're not just copying. They're adding some modern adaptations to what's going on. Dante, Petrarch, and Boccaccio introduce new forms of poetry and new forms of rhyme. Giotto adds light and space and perspective to paintings, as does Alberti. Titian, Raphael, and Botticelli all add shadow and accuracy in their figures that completely change the way in which we see art. Some of these people actually become the model for the Renaissance man, as we would call them. Michelangelo is a sculptor and a painter. Leonardo da Vinci, he's a sculptor, he's a painter, he's an engineer, a geologist, a botanist, an anatomist, a scientist, and an inventor. A lot of people don't know he was also a musician. Da Vinci left us designs for some modern feats of engineering, such as the calculator, the helicopter, and the tank. He also left us Da Vinci's rose. Back to the idea of the Republic. With the Republic comes voting, which, as we all know, leads to corruption. Powerful families begin to fight to show off their wealth and status, and they do this through art. New works of art and new inventions are financed by them. This leads to more and more traffic on the high seas. They're competing for wealth and for status. And all of these new ways of thinking spread across Europe, and they change society and culture. And as that happens, that's when exploration really gets started.